Discover the incredible journey of a delivery girl who transformed 9 programmers' lives in one heart-stopping moment. Jane revved the engine of her aging delivery scooter, anxiety bubbling beneath her determined exterior. The sun dangled low in the sky, casting long shadows over the suburban streets of Silicon Valley, where ambition thrived and dreams often crumbled. At 22, she was no stranger to hard work. She was the living proof that perseverance could carve paths through the thickest walls of adversity. Raised by a single mother juggling 2 jobs just to keep food on their table, Jane had learned from a young age that showing up was just part of the game. Delivery routes became more than a job, they turned into a lifeline for her hopes and dreams. Each stop brought new conversations, snippets of lives woven intricately into her own story. As she delivered meals to a local startup, Jane couldn't help but overhear the struggles of the 9 brilliant programmers inside. Their voices buzzed with anxiety over looming deadlines, financial insecurities, and the weight of expectations pressing down on them like concrete shoes. With her infectious positivity, she tried to lift their spirits, but what did a delivery girl know about coding or managing a startup? Though she carried their meals, she couldn't carry their burdens. As days turned into weeks, her bond with the programmers deepened. They slowly opened up, and with each shared laugh over a misplaced order or a late-night coding session, Jane became their thread of hope, stitching their individual dreams into one collective aspiration. But as the tech competition approached, tension hung thick in the air. Every programmer wrestled with feelings of imposter syndrome, questioning their worth and abilities. Jane knew they were more than their fears. She just had to help them see it. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With a community festival suddenly set on Jane's delivery route, inspiration ignited within her. She envisioned an event that would showcase the programmer's project, blinking with vivid potential, driving the competition into a whirlwind of excitement and support. But she hadn't anticipated that her good intentions would accidentally magnify their struggles, revealing societal biases that cut deep. Jeering laughter and dismissive glances felt like arrows, each piercing through the armor of resilience that they had spent so long constructing. Competition day struck, and the air was thick with disappointment. It smothered their dreams like a heavy blanket. Jane stood amidst them, her chest tight with familiarity, the sting of feeling invisible and unworthy. Just as hope seemed to flicker out, a spark ignited. Jane's belief in them, fierce and unwavering, lit something within the programmers. They rallied. Courage surged through them, embracing their journey, scars and all, ready to turn vulnerability into strength. Jane stepped back, letting them take their moment to shine. Her phone buzzed, a message flashing reminders of family fractures she hoped to heal. Here, in the shadows of Silicon Valley, both Jane and her team stood on the precipice of change, ready to challenge the odds stacked against them. Would the programmers rise and claim their spot in the tech world? Or would they succumb again to their fears? And could Jane navigate her own tangled family ties with the help of these incredible individuals she had inspired? The answers lay ahead, waiting in the unfolding narrative of their intertwined lives. The crowd buzzed with excitement, the air electric as banners flapped in the gentle breeze. Jane took a deep breath, attempting to absorb the energy that swirled around her. Her eyes searched for the 9 programmers, each of them pacing nervously, shifting from foot to foot like a pack of restless deer. She watched as Sam, the most anxious of the bunch, fiddled with his glasses, wiping the lenses with the hem of his shirt as if they held the key to every unanswered question they were facing. The moment they stepped onto the small makeshift stage, a hush fell over the rabble. Jane felt her heart skip. Would they rise to the occasion, or would they let self-doubt engulf them? This was their moment. A chance to step out of the shadows and show everyone who they really were. As they began their pitch, Jane noticed Sam struggle with his words, his hands trembling slightly. The silence stretched, thick, suffocating. Panic fluttered in her chest, and she fought to keep her expression neutral, sending him a quick smile to soothe his nerves. Just as her pulse quickened, another programmer, Maria, stepped forward. With a deep breath, she turned the tide. Her voice, firm yet melodic, sliced through the tension. The transformation was palpable. One moment of strength, and the others followed, each finding their groove, building off each other's energy. But as the pitch progressed, Jane couldn't ignore the crowd's undercurrent of skepticism. She caught whispers here and there, comments ricocheting like unwanted shrapnel. Just a bunch of amateurs, someone sneered, while another added, "They don't belong here." It struck her like 1,000 tiny daggers. Jane's heart ached for them. The team remained undeterred, channeling the negativity into raw determination. They told their story of late nights coding, of their dreams, of the struggles they faced within both the tech world and their own lives. As they embraced their vulnerabilities, the tides began to shift. The audience could feel the passion radiating from them, hearts aligning in a powerful symphony. And then it happened. A moment of connection. A quiet young woman in the front row leaned forward, eyes shining brightly, captured by their authenticity. Her smile mirrored Jane's hopes. Here was someone, a stranger, seeing them. That flicker ignited the crowd, a collective heartbeat that pulsed with unspoken support. But just as victory seemed within reach, Jane received a notification on her phone. It was a message from her mother, a short, blunt reminder of things left unsaid. Unresolved family friction grinding at her mind. It threatened to pull her back into her own struggles. Could she really juggle her needs while fostering the growth of these programmers? Each face on that stage reminded her of what she had fought for: respect, worth, a place where dreams could thrive. The applause that erupted brought her thoughts crashing back. The team's pitch ended amidst clamoring cheers. They had done it. They had shared their truth. Emotions swelled around Jane like a tidal wave, covering her in warmth and gratitude. The spark of connection was hot in her chest as she realized they were all on this journey together, facing their challenges side by side. But as the sound of applause faded into the background, Jane was left with the question that gnawed at her heart. What would it take for her to confront her own family struggles while celebrating theirs? The journey had only just begun, and the next steps loomed before her like uncertainty shrouded in shadows. What did it mean to balance the hope she felt for them with the chaos back home? She had transformed their lives in this moment, but could she find a way to transform her own? The answers lingered just out of reach, teasing the edges of her consciousness as she stood on the verge of discovering what true strength really meant. As the applause faded into echoes, Jane felt a flutter of excitement mixed with anxiety. The crowd was no longer just an audience. They had transformed into a community willing to embrace these 9 programmers. A surge of pride welled up in her as she caught Sam's eyes, their mutual understanding solidified by the shared ordeal. Still, her mother's message loomed in the back of her mind, a nagging reminder of the unresolved. Around her, the atmosphere began to shift. People were approaching the stage, eager to talk to the team, sharing their admiration and encouragement. Jane made her way through the crowd, drawn to the joyful energy radiating from the programmers. Each face beamed with a glow of newfound confidence, their spirits lifted after revealing their vulnerabilities. Did you see the way they reacted when Maria stepped up? Wow! Exclaimed Sam, his voice crisp with excitement. I know. You were all amazing, Jane replied, smiling brightly. You turned it around. I couldn't have wished for a better outcome. Maria, her hair bouncing with every word, added with animation, I really thought we were going to bomb it. But once I started talking, it felt like the room just got lighter, like they were cheering for us, not against us. But even as Jane celebrated their success, a storm brewed inside her. The joy of their victory felt like a double-edged sword, cutting deeply into her unresolved issues. She wanted to be there for them, to bask in their triumph. Yet she felt the weight of her mother's expectations crumbling the joy around her. It felt selfish to enjoy this moment when back home a different reality awaited. Hey, are you okay? Sam's voice broke through her thoughts, concern etching his features. "You seem a bit distant." "I'm fine," she lied, forcing a smile. "Just a lot to take in." Just then, a teen with a camera approached them, asking for a few pictures of the team. "Can I capture this moment? It's incredible." Jane watched as they huddled together, laughter dipping and rising, their barriers now stripped away. They didn't just belong here. They had carved their place in the world. She felt a pang of envy, how liberating to be free from fear, to express joy so openly. She clenched her fists, grounding herself. "Jane," Maria called, pulling her thoughts back to the moment. "Get in the photo." With hesitation, she stepped forward. They all laughed again, and suddenly, before she knew it, the camera shutter clicked, capturing the essence of unity, of growth, and of the uncertain journey ahead. But as the cameras clicked, a shadow interrupted. Jane looked up to see an older woman standing at the edge of the crowd, her arms crossed, a stern expression on her face. Instinctively, Jane recognized her mother, here to confront her in what felt like an unwelcome reminder of home. The laughter faded, replaced by an anxious knot in Jane's stomach. Her heart raced. Would this moment shatter everything they had just built? Would she have to choose between her newfound family and the one that had been with her all her life? The cheers faded into voice as the crowd moved aside, leaving Jane standing grounded, the lightness of her team's victory in stark contrast to the heaviness that had just materialized. What choice would she make? Would she let the past dictate her future or step into the unknown with the programmers by her side? The questions loomed, burdening her heart with uncertainty as she stood, unsure of her next step. Jane's breath hung in her throat as she met her mother's piercing gaze. Time stood still while echoes of laughter, joy, and accomplishment became muffled sounds in the distance. Behind her, her team continued to celebrate, basking in their hard-earned glory. But all of that faded as the reality of her mother's presence seeped into her bones. Mom Jane's voice trembled, barely a whisper above the noise. The warmth she felt just moments ago turned icy, her joy overshadowed by the looming confrontation. "Jane, we need to talk," her mother asserted, her voice sharp and unyielding as she stepped closer, cutting through the jubilant atmosphere. A stark reminder of the life waiting for Jane back home. "Now? Can't it wait?" I'm kind of busy right now," Jane replied, forcing a smile, hoping to buy herself a moment. She wanted to focus on the people who had come together to support one another, the people who believed in her. "Busy? You're busy ignoring your responsibilities." "Jane," her mother replied, the disappointment heavy in her tone. "You can't just run away from everything forever. You know that, right?" The weight of each word landed hard on Jane's chest. The feeling of unity she experienced moments ago began to unravel, threatening to pull her back into the expectations she long fought against. She glanced back at her team, their eyes bright with pride and excitement, waiting for her to join them. But facing her mother now felt like nearing a cliff, peering down into a world of doubt and fear she had long been trying to escape. "Mom, this isn't about running away," she said, a crack of defiance igniting within her. "I'm here because I chose to be. I'm living a part of my life that you don't understand. Maturing means facing your duties, not succumbing to distractions." Her mother shot back, arms crossed, unyielding. "You're wasting your talent, Jane." The word stung. It echoed through her like a ghost. A sense of betrayal washed over her. This was not just about the presentation. This was about the years of chasing perfection that her mother had instilled in her since childhood. But had it all been worth it? The validation she sought from her mother now felt like shackles holding her down. Behind her, she heard Maria call her name, followed by Sam's reassuring presence. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, sensing her turmoil even from a distance. "Just give me a minute." Jane shot back, frustration and vulnerability bubbling beneath the surface. She turned back to her mother, fierce determination filling her chest. "You don't get to dictate who I should be. I'm learning who I am without your constraints, and I'm finally finding my voice." At that moment, a flicker of understanding sparked in her mother's eyes, a hint of surprise mixed with something softer, but it was quickly masked by her usual sternness. And what if that voice leads you down the wrong path? What then? Jane took a deep breath. Was there a chance for understanding? Could she show her mother that this path, unpredictable and bright, was one she needed to explore, even if it felt scary? A silence unfolded between them, thick with unspoken words and longing. Jane felt the moment stretch, tendrils of hope and fear weaving together. As her team cheered once more in the background, she caught their energy, their resolve mixing with her own. She realized this wasn't just about confronting her mother. It was about claiming her right to choose her journey. "Mom," she began with renewed fire, "I can't keep living for you." But before she could finish, her mother's phone buzzed sharply, interrupting the moment. Jane's heart dropped as she watched her mother read a message that seemed to shake her very foundation, the fleeting softness vanishing in an instant. "What is it?" Jane whispered, a chill creeping into her tone. Her mother's eyes widened, the anxiety flooding back, and Jane instantly felt that knot in her stomach twist tighter. "Something else happened," her mother said, her voice taut with worry. "We need to go home now." In that heartbeat, everything shifted. Would she choose to follow her mother into uncertainty, or would she stand her ground with her team, clutching to the dreams that were just beginning to take root? This was more than just a choice. It was a reckoning. Jane's heart raced as she processed her mother's urgent expression. Time was slipping through her fingers. The joy of victory evaporated, replaced by an unsettling dread that pulsed beneath her skin. "What happened?" she asked, a mix of concern and anger coiling within her. The celebration around them blurred, fading into a dull backdrop to this moment. Her mother hesitated, glancing back at the team as if weighing the risk of confiding in Jane against the desire to shield her from more pain. "It's about your father," she finally said, her voice laced with an unfamiliar tremor. "The hospital?" Jane felt her pulse quicken, a wave of fear crashing over her. Images of past visits flooded her mind. The sterile white walls, the smell of antiseptics, the sense of helplessness that had once gripped her when faced with the fragility of life. Her mother nodded, her stoic demeanor crumbling under the weight of emotion. "He.S. had another episode. We need to leave now." The world around Jane blurred further, her team's cheers fading into a haunting silence. All at once, her dreams felt small, fragile, and distant like glass ornaments she had been preserving, now teetering on the edge of a shelf. "I can't just leave," she insisted, the words barely escaping her throat, a desperate plea laced with defiance. "Not now, after everything." "Jane, this is about your father," her mother snapped. "You think this is easy for me? I'm terrified. I can't go through this alone." The tension hung thick between them, mixing fear with unshed tears, a cocktail of heartbreak and urgency. Jane's heart ached for her mother, for the unspoken battles she had faced alone. Yet anger swelled within her, a dark frustration over the time lost to expectations, judgment, and now a crisis threatening to uproot the fragile sense of self she was only beginning to cultivate. "Can't you see? This matters to me too," Jane shouted, her voice rising above the noise, surprising even herself. She glanced back at her friends, still celebrating, but now it felt different. Their glances held understanding, perhaps sympathy, but also the dawning realization that this moment might change everything. "Then make a choice," her mother yelled back, desperation spilling over. "Your father needs you. I need you. What is it going to be?" Jane stood frozen, her heart pounding in her ears. In this moment, she felt the crushing weight of two worlds, one filled with hope and ambition, the other pulling her back into the shadows of family duty and sacrifice. Then something clicked. "Maybe I can do both," Jane thought out loud, a spark igniting within her. "Maybe I can stand by my father and still chase my dreams." Her mother's eyes softened, just a fraction, as if she hadn't considered such a possibility. "You think it's that easy?" A flicker of defiance sparked in Jane's chest. "Being there for him doesn't mean I have to let go of who I am. I can show him the life I'm building, make him proud." The silence stretched between them, fragile as a spider's web, both recognizing the truth in Jane's words. "Please, just give me a moment." She continued, desperation tinged with determination. Let me at least tell my team what's happening. They deserve that. Reluctantly, her mother nodded. And in that brief acknowledgement stood a glimmer of understanding. A small yet potent shift in the storm swirling around them. The cheering continued behind Jane, echoing through her mind, yet now mixed with her understanding of the journey ahead. Facing her mother had opened a door. There was potential here, a chance for acceptance and a different kind of connection. Taking a deep breath, Jane turned back to her team, a sense of purpose building. Guys, I have to go. I need to be with my family for a bit. Their faces fell, immediate concern rising. Yet Sam stepped forward, his presence grounding. We're here for you, Jane. Whatever you need. Just let us know how we can help. She nodded, grateful for their understanding. And as she looked into their eyes, friends who lifted her up, Jane felt the clarity of her own path unfolding beneath her feet. But as she headed towards the door with her mother, a question hung in the air: how could she balance these two worlds? A daughter's duty and a dreamer's heart? Suddenly, she stopped in her tracks, her heart pounding with a new realization. What if her father's situation could somehow fuel her journey? What if this was just the beginning of learning to embrace both her responsibilities and passions? When they reached the car, Jane's mind spun with possibilities. Could there truly be a way to honor her father and her own dreams? A familiar warmth washed over her, pushing aside the doubts that had plagued her most of her life. As her mother started the engine, Jane took a deep breath, ready to face the challenges ahead. Would the experience finally carve a path to find balance? Or would it deepen the divide? Only time would tell. Jane sat in the passenger seat, the hum of the engine a steady reminder of the journey she was on. Outside the window, the world zipped past like a blur, and with each passing second, her thoughts grew more chaotic. Her mother's quiet dread simmered in the air, mixing with Jane's own fear and determination. They were headed to the hospital, a place that had haunted her dreams and nightmares alike. Is he? Jane couldn't bring herself to finish the question. Her mother glanced sideways, her expression taut. We don't know yet. We need to see the doctors first. There was a quiver in her voice that caught Jane off guard. It was hard to reconcile the tough facade she had always known with the vulnerability on display now. What if he doesn't make it through? The thought slipped out before Jane could stop it. Her mother gripped the steering wheel tighter, knuckles blanching. We can't think like that, honey. He's a fighter. Like me, Jane whispered, though self-doubt twisted her stomach. She felt a surge of longing to be that brave, to channel any courage she could muster into her father as if it could keep him safe. Silence enveloped them, thick and heavy. As they drove through familiar streets, spots that used to hold laughter and warmth now felt like weighty reminders of what was at stake. The hospital loomed in the distance like a dark cloud, a monster waiting to swallow them whole. Upon entering, the sterile smell hit her, a mix of disinfectant and unease. They walked through the maze of corridors that felt both foreign and tragically familiar. Jane's heart ached with each step closer to the unknown. At the nurse's station, her mother spoke rapidly, relaying their concerns, and Jane caught snippets of their conversation. Words like monitor, unstable, and condition swirled around, deepening her anxiety. This was new territory. It felt overwhelming. Jane? A soft voice broke through her thoughts, and she turned to see a nurse approaching. I'll take you to your father's room. Swallowing hard, Jane exchanged glances with her mother. A nod from her mother pushed her forward, a signal of support. They followed the nurse down another corridor, the stark, white walls pressing in on them. Just as they reached the door, Jane felt her pulse quicken, a mixture of hope and dread. Here we are. The nurse opened the door, and Jane stepped inside, her heart pounding louder than ever. There he was. Her father lay in the bed, pale and fragile, tethered to a web of wires and machines. Machines that beeped and hummed in a rhythmic dance, reminding her that he was still alive. Jane's breath caught. It was a side of him she had never seen, a side that exposed vulnerability in a man who had always been her hero. Her mother dropped her bag and rushed to his side, gently brushing a hand over his forehead. Jane stayed back, an invisible barrier holding her from crossing into this new world of pain. What do I say? She thought, panic bubbling up. This was her father, the man who cheered the loudest and laughed the hardest. How could she face him like this? Dad. She finally managed, her voice soft yet trembling. It's me, it's Jane. His eyelids fluttered at the sound of her voice, and her heart soared just a little. The flicker of recognition ignited a tiny flame of hope within her. What if she could reach him? What if there was still a chance to connect, to bring a piece of herself to him even now? Her mother turned to her, eyes shimmering with unshed tears. He can hear you, she whispered. Dad, I'm working on my dreams. Jane felt a rush of warmth surge within her as she spoke, desperate for him to understand. I worked so hard this season, I want you to see me accomplish everything. I want to make you proud. His breath hitched, and she saw a slow, almost imperceptible smile tug at the corners of his mouth. Jane, that's enough, her mother said. But Jane wasn't ready to stop. No, let me say this. I know we don't always talk about these things, but I want you to know that I believe in you like you believe in me. As the words left her lips, she realized this was more than a promise to her father. It was a promise she was making to herself. A promise to embrace both her dreams and her responsibilities. With a deep breath, Jane leaned closer, her heart racing as she placed her hand on his. Just stay with me a little longer. We're in this together, okay? She squeezed his hand tightly, hoping somehow it would transfer her strength to him. But would it be enough? The room was still, and Jane felt a wave of uncertainty wash over her. Would her father pull through this ordeal? And even if he did, how would she navigate the budding harmony between her responsibility as a daughter and her burning ambitions? As the seconds ticked by, Jane suddenly felt the fragile thread connecting them all, love that transcended fears and dreams alike. Was she ready for whatever came next? Would she find the strength to juggle both sides of her heart as the days unfolded? Outside the room, the sounds of the hospital pulsed around her. A reminder that life went on, filled with uncertainty. In that moment of quiet resolve, Jane knew she had to embrace whatever lay ahead. Life would teach her how to balance it all, but first, she had to stay rooted in the love that bound her to her family. And as she looked at her father, she felt a hint of courage rising within her. Would this be the moment that set everything into motion? Or would it only complicate the path ahead? Only time would tell. Jane felt the weight of the room pressing down around her. Her heart raced as she focused on her father, lying so still. She studied his face, trying to memorize every line and crease, every detail that made him hers. She wanted to hold onto the man who had taught her how to ride a bike, how to laugh at life as silly moments, and how to face challenges head-on. Her mother's soft murmurs filled the space as she talked to her father, recounting memories that brought a flicker of warmth to her voice. Jane wished she could share something too, something that could bridge the gap between them in this strange, sterile place. Dad, she started, hesitating, searching for the right words that felt so elusive. I remember the last game we played together. You said I had the heart of a lion. You always believed in me, didn't you? She squeezed his hand tighter, as if her grip could keep him tethered to this world. Remember when I got that trophy for my first dance competition? I promised you I'd shine brighter next time. I still want to make you proud. She glanced at her mother, whose eyes were brimming with tears. Jane longed to comfort her, but found herself caught up in this emotional storm, torn between her role as a daughter and the girl's aspirations. In the flickering fluorescent light of the room, her father's fingers twitched, and for a fleeting second, Jane's heart leaped. Was he trying to respond, or just a trick of the machines? She felt a flicker of hope, a tiny ember igniting in the pit of her stomach. Please don't leave us, Dad. We still have so much to do together. Her voice wavered, but she pushed through, fighting against the creeping doubt. Maybe, just maybe, he could hear her. Maybe he could feel the love radiating from her words. Outside, the hospital seemed as alive as ever, a buzzing hive of urgency. But in this room, time slowed to a crawl. Each minute felt like an eternity, and Jane struggled against the tide of despair threatening to pull her under. A faint cough from her father snapped her from her reverie. "Mom!" she exclaimed, her eyes wide with excitement. "Did you see that?" He moved. Her mother's face brightened with a glimmer of hope, and she leaned in closer to his ear. "Can you hear us, love? Jane is here. We're all here." Tension tensed in Jane's shoulders, and she thought back to all the moments they had shared, all the laughter, all the lessons learned. It clicked in her mind, then this is the moment to lean into their memories, to pull strength from the past and push it into the present. "Remember the camping trip when we got lost?" she continued, her voice gaining strength. "You made the best s'mores, and somehow we ended up laughing all night." As the stories flowed, Jane's nerves eased. She could see her father's face relax slightly, like he was somehow processing their shared memories, piecing together the comfort of family with the struggles of his current state. Suddenly, a doctor stepped into the room. He wore a calm yet serious expression, and Jane felt a rush of fear mixed with the desire for answers. What would he say? Would it offer hope or shatter the fragile optimism that gently began to bloom? "Is he improving?" Jane dared to ask, her heart pounding as the doctor's gaze shifted to her father. The doctor took a deep breath, clearing his throat. "We have some updates on his condition." Jane held her breath, a storm of questions swirling in her mind. Would the updates bring them closer to the relief they sought, or plunge them deeper into uncertainty? As she clutched her father's hand, Jane resolved to fight for every moment they had left. And no matter the outcome, she knew she had to stay strong for her father, for herself, and for their future together. What they heard next would determine the path ahead and test everything she believed in. Would the fight for her father's life also mean fighting for her own dreams? Jane's heart raced as the doctor's words hung in the air like an unresolved chord. She barely registered the physician's tailored suit and the mix of compassion and professionalism etched into his face. It felt as if the world had narrowed down to just those few seconds, an eerie silence enveloping her, only broken by the steady beep of the machines around her. "We're seeing some small signs of neurological activity," he continued, his voice gaining a certain steady assurance. "It's promising, but we need to be cautious. He's still in critical condition." Jane's mind swirled. "But he can hear us, right? He knows we're here?" The tremor in her voice surprised her, but it was real and came from a desperate place. If he knew they were there, maybe he could find a reason to come back to them. "We believe so. Communication isn't just verbal. It's more about connection and love." The doctor's gaze softened, looking from Jane to her mother, who remained stoic beside her. "Your presence alone can be a powerful motivator in his recovery, more than you might realize." A flicker of warmth rushed through her. The hope that had been hesitant felt like it was growing roots inside her, stubborn and strong. "We won't give up on him," Jane declared, squeezing his hand tighter. A feeling began to wash over her, a combination of fear and fierce determination. They had always fought together as a family, and now she needed to be his voice, his strength. "Let us share more stories, Mom," Jane suggested, turning back to her mother, who appeared somewhat dazed by the news. "We can talk about the holidays, Christmas mornings, every moment he made us laugh." The words spilled out like water from a broken dam, and she could feel the warmth in the room start to shift, the doctor's presence easing back as they began to create their own bubble of intimacy. Her mother nodded, visibly moved. "Oh, remember the time we tried to make that ridiculous giant kite? It crashed into the neighbor's hedge, but you two laughed so hard we couldn't help but join in. He was so proud of you for trying," she recalled, her voice thick with nostalgia as tales of their family's adventures wove through the hospital room. Jane sensed every story was a thread, connecting their past to this moment, casting a net around the uncertainty they faced. She noticed her father's fingers twitch again, the smallest flicker of response, but it ignited a fierce fire in her heart. Time drifted as each precious moment unfolded like petals opening to the sun. They recreated birthdays and vacations, moments of pride and love. In these stories, Jane could feel her father's spirit still with them, a soft echo of laughter floating through the sterile atmosphere. She paused and closed her eyes, urging more than just her voice into his unconsciousness. "Dad, I need you to know I'm not ready to let go. You taught me to fight, and now I need you to fight too." The doctor stepped back into the room, flipping through notes, his expression shifting. I'll be monitoring several aspects of his condition over the next few hours. There are many unknowns still, but the way you're all connecting with him is essential. Keep talking. Truly helps. Jane nodded, emboldened by his reassurance. Outside, the sun dipped lower, casting a golden light through the blinds, and as the light flickered in the room, Jane felt a swell of hope. Would they be able to pull him back from the depths? Would their love carry him through whatever darkness awaited him? In that moment, she realized she would fight not just for her father, but for every dream they had woven together over the years. As laughter rang softly in the room from shared memories, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was stirring inside her father. Maybe he could feel their presence, their courage. Just then, a sudden commotion in the hallway drew Jane's attention, and her heart plummeted at the sounds of raised voices. What if bad news followed? What if they weren't finished fighting? Would their encounter with the unknown end in hope or heartbreak? The air thickened with unspoken questions, leaving Jane clawing for clarity amidst the unpredictable winds of fate. The commotion in the hallway grew louder, sharp voices slicing through the quiet spaces of hope they'd created. Jane's fingers tightened around her father's, almost instinctively, as if she could physically pull him back into their world. She turned toward the door, her heart pounding in rhythm with the chaotic noise outside. What do you think it is? Her mother murmured, a note of concern creeping into her voice. Jane shook her head. I don't know. I'm scared. The thought that something could go wrong sent a chill down her spine, and she tried to steady her breath. The last thing they needed was more uncertainty. The door swung open, and a nurse stepped in, clipboard in hand. Her expression was serious but composed. Excuse me, she began, cutting through the nerves. Is there a family member who can step outside for a moment? We need clarity on a situation. Jane felt her heart drop. What situation? She asked, her voice sharper than she intended. The nurse hesitated, clearly weighing her words. There's been an unexpected incident with another patient. We may need to shift focus temporarily. I assure you, we'll keep monitoring your father closely. No. Jane interrupted, her voice breaking slightly. I can't lose him like this. Not after everything. The nurse's gaze softened, recognizing the urgency and desperation radiating from Jane. I understand, I do. But please, just a moment. We'll keep a staff member with him. Taking a moment to look at her father, lying so still, Jane felt as though a weight had perched upon her chest. What if this was it? What if this moment of connection was all there was left for them? Her eyes darted toward her mother, who bore a similar look of determination. Go, Jane, her mother said firmly, placing a gentle but insistent hand on her back. I'll stay with him. Biting her lip, Jane reluctantly followed the nurse down the hallway, where the chaos grew more palpable. The scent of antiseptic was stronger here, but it felt almost foreign against the emotions roiling within her. Heart pounding, she stepped outside the room. The nurse led her to a small waiting area, where a small group of people appeared frazzled. One woman was crying quietly, another man had his hands buried in his hair, and a couple stood clutching each other, exchanging worried glances. Is everyone okay? Jane asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Before she received an answer, a tall doctor strode into the room, looking authoritative and stressed. Family of Robert Thompson? He asked, scanning the group. Jane's heart raced. That's my dad. I'm Dr. Hess, he said briskly. We've had an emergency with your father. We believe the signs we were monitoring might be indicating he's slipping further. We need to take immediate action. Her breath hitched in her throat. Fear clawed at her. What does that mean? It means we need to prepare for treatment options right away. You can ask questions, but we don't have much time. I understand this is overwhelming. The world started to spin around her. Would the fight she had committed to matter at all? Wait, she stammered, raising her hands in disbelief. We just started to connect. Please, he can fight. He's been fighting. I can feel it. Dr. Hess exchanged a glance with the nurse, who squeezed Jane's shoulder gently. This is the critical time, yes. But we need to act quickly to give him the best chance or risk losing any progress made. Are you ready to make some decisions? Jane felt a barrage of emotions flooding her: doubt, love, desperation. It was all coming down to this moment. Would she stand strong and trust that her father was still in there? As the doctor and nurse began discussing aspects of her father's treatment, Jane heard whispers of hope and fear intertwining, and knew this wasn't just about medication. It was about faith and the power of their unyielding connection. She took a deep breath and reminded herself of the stories they shared back in the room. But could stories alone bring her father back? As she blinked through the thoughts swirling, her heart quickened. Jane felt an unfamiliar strength rising within, ready to confront the challenges ahead. Just as she prepared to speak, a figure rushed down the hall toward them, a dazed look on her face. "What's happening?" the newcomer gasped, and Jane turned, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on her. The moment teetered on the brink of revelation or despair. Would they learn something that could turn the tide in their favor? Jane's heart raced as the newcomer approached, her frantic energy spiraling into the tension of the moment. It was a friend from the startup, someone she'd shared meals with, someone who understood how hard the programmers had worked. "What's going on?" she repeated, now standing just beside Jane. Confusion painted across her features. Dr. Hess glanced back at the group. "We're addressing an emergency with her father. We have to make some difficult decisions quickly." The weight of the situation pressed thickly upon everyone. Time felt like sand slipping through their fingers. "Wait, what does that mean? Is he?" the friend stammered, eyes wide with concern. Jane felt her throat tighten, caught between wanting to be brave for her father and the gnawing fear of what could happen next. Her breath hitched again, and she swallowed hard. "He can still fight," she said, her voice trembling yet firm. "He just needs us. He needs more time." The words echoed in her mind like a prayer. Each heartbeat felt like a plea for her father's life, for their shared memories, and for the encouragement to keep pushing forward. Dr. Hess nodded, a professional composure about him, yet a softness lingering in his gaze. "We don't have much time. We need to start treatment right away. Please, let us do whatever it takes," Jane said, feeling a blaze of determination. She turned to her mother, who had taken a step behind her, an unyielding support. "Mom, can we do this?" Her mother grasped Jane's hand tightly, a silent reassurance that they were in this together. "We can. Whatever it takes, we'll fight for him." As the doctor began explaining the steps of the proposed treatment, Jane felt a renewed sense of purpose blossom inside her. She was no longer just a scared daughter. She was a warrior fighting for her family. "We need to be there for him," she said, glancing around at her friends, locking eyes with her team. "We'll come back together. Yes, not alone." The unwavering resolve in her voice was contagious. In that moment, her programmers, once uncertain and timid, stepped forward, ready to embrace the fight with her. Sam, Maria, and the others nodded, solidarity uniting them. "We'll spread the word about your dad. We'll create a support page. People want to help," Maria suggested, her eyes lit with hope. "Yeah. We can write updates on his progress and share story stuff to keep the spirit alive," Sam added, a determined grin spreading across his face that mirrored Jane's own. Their camaraderie was like a rallying cry, awakening something deep within her, a sense that they were all intertwined through adversity. A family forged not just by blood, but by shared dreams. As they rallied around her, talking excitedly about what they could do, Jane felt a warmth envelop her. The doctor's instructions became a blurring background as she stood tall, expectant, as if she could feel hope building, poised for what would come next. The group orchestrated their plans, their excitement rippling through the hospital walls, igniting an energy that cut through the sorrow they defaced. It felt like the very act of connecting through their love and shared purpose could collectively push against the barriers. Jane found herself at the center, feeling a sense of community she had never before been a part of. "Okay," Jane said, her heart racing, "let us do this. For Dad." The words echoed and sparked a veritable fire through the team. Moments ticked by as they discussed logistics. Jane knew this was only the beginning. a stepping stone into a world of unforeseen challenges. The uncertainty of the situation loomed like dark clouds hanging above their heads, but the power of love surging between them breathed life into hope. Together, they would face whatever came their way. Finally, a nurse entered, breaking the dynamic. "We're ready to begin treatment. We need the family to come back in." Jane's heart sank in the best way possible. "That SRQ," she said, looking around at her friends, their determined faces reaffirming this unity. They stepped into that sterile room as one, a pack driven with purpose. As Jane entered, her father remained still, yet she could feel the energy of her friends pulsing through her. Whatever lay ahead, they were going to face it together. Nothing was going to break this collective spirit. Here and now, in that moment of potential, she felt empowered and vibrant, filled with a sense of growth and transformation. "Dad," she said softly, squeezing his hand tighter than before, "I'm gonna fight for you. We're gonna fight together." She looked at the faces of her friends behind her, their strength giving her the push she needed. The journey ahead would not be easy, but together, they were more than capable as they stood together in that hospital room. Jane realized both her family and her dreams were interconnected like the roots of a great tree. She would grow in this journey, nourishing the bonds of love and fighting courageously for the life she so desperately wanted for herself and for her father. This was the moment she had waited for, embracing uncertainty while igniting hope. And as she turned to her team, ready to embrace the path ahead, she understood that family could come in many forms, and love transcended any challenge life threw their way. The future was vast and uncertain, yet Jane felt ready to take the leap, step by step, into the light. But first, she needed you to join her. Subscribe immediately to the channel, so you won't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let us share this journey together. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this transformative ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible story of family and perseverance. Your support means the world.